All right, testing, testing, testing. All right, testing, testing, testing. Cool. Morning to you too, Pacheco Ford. I think I'm probably running with Ford this week. But as the weeks go on, obviously, it might probably shift to Pacheco once Kareem Hunt's back. The only issue with Ford right now is he's going to be playing the Titans, but I don't really feel too comfortable with Pacheco this week. Fields or Goff? I think I'm running with Fields this week. Atlanta defense has been kind of sneaky good. I'm not like overly concerned about it, but I think Fields could come back and do decent this week as well. They were talking about how he in the presser was saying he's just going to play ball, so we'll see. We'll see what that looks like. I think that he might actually run the ball a little bit more than he has been the first 2 weeks, which is my hope. So. That's a loaded question right there. Let's see. I think I'm for sure starting Geno, Russ. I think it's between Carr and Stafford who I would sit. And I think I might just be sitting Derek Carr. I just feel like CJ Stroud throws the ball way too many times a game to bench at this point over those guys. And Derek Carr is probably the toughest matchup out of all of them. Didn't really do a ton so far this year. So I'm going with Ertz pretty much most weeks. Even against Dallas, I just feel like he's got more upside than Njoku right now. Njoku's looked pretty bad, I guess. Hasn't done much this year. Even against Dallas, Ertz is one of like 3 options that they have. So. Joe fan, bro, you're crazy. I lean St. Brown, but barely. You can't like not start St. Brown. That was a close one. I'm going Tutu all day on that one. Tutu's been getting the targets. He was doing pretty good. Tutu and Puka haven't even gotten touchdowns yet, which is the crazy part. So I'm going to go for Tutu. Hope he gets a touchdown. And I just think he sees more work than Pacheco. Pacheco's been dealing with a hamstring injury pretty much all week. And so I don't know how much they're going to play him. With how they're using their backs recently, like they still use Clyde a little bit. They still use McKinnon. Obviously, Pacheco's the main one. But with the injury, maybe they go easy on him. But he just hasn't really performed much thus far anyways for me to feel comfortable in starting him. So I think Tutu just has a safer floor and a higher ceiling. You too, man. Good luck. Yo, J900. Hey, bro, quick question for you. Do you start Jacoby Myers in your flex or Michael Thomas or James Conner? Fantasy Pro says James Conner. I'm honestly thinking Jacoby Myers. I think in a standard league, I'd probably go Atwell. I think just based off of the yards he's been getting, it's been more than Zay Flowers, and I just have more faith in Atwell right now. I probably wouldn't go Stafford. I just feel like Stafford hasn't he's been performing, but he hasn't really been putting up big fantasy numbers. He's gotten like 15 points every game. I think Geno has been obviously bad week 1, good week 2, but we've seen what Geno can do now. He can kind of get 20 points pretty much most games. So I just like Geno better than Stafford. Russ is another one that's interesting with the Dolphins matchup. Anyone who plays the Dolphins is going to have to put up some points. And last week he did do pretty well. And then Stroud, another interesting one. He's been throwing the ball so many times that like it's hard not to get a bunch of points. So I'm kind of like tied on those three. I think like in terms of safety, Geno probably offers you the most weekly safety. Like Russ could be a little dangerous at times, and Stroud's a rookie, so who knows? But I would probably go with one of those three. I might just lean Geno right now in terms of safety, but also just higher ceiling. Yeah, it's definitely going to be Moss over Ford for me right now. I think that Moss has the whole backfield to himself right now, and I'm not a huge fan of Ford's matchup. The Titans are a tough matchup, so I think currently I would lean Moss barely. And also, Ford didn't really do a whole lot last week if you take away his big run. Obviously, he got the big run, but outside of that, like he didn't really do anything spectacular. So Joe fan, I know you're just tossing these questions in here to screw with me, bro, but I'm gonna answer them just cause. I wasn't a huge James Cook fan coming into the season. Obviously, he's kind of proved me wrong a little bit, but I still feel like there's going to be weeks where he doesn't do a ton. So I think for the most part, he's probably okay. And some weeks, he probably just won't get a touchdown or do much. James Cook? I mean, he doesn't, I guess, but at the same time, I don't know, man. I just feel like running backs in that system just are so hit or miss. And I'm not saying he needs a touchdown. Obviously, he can get catches and put up some yards, but I was not a huge fan coming into the season. Obviously, proving me wrong a little bit, but I still think there will be a game or two where it doesn't look pretty. All right, what about this one, bro? Right now, I currently have Hill, Evans, and Addison in. I'm kind of like doing a bold move and benching Olave because Addison's got that juicy Chargers matchup. Mike Evans got Philly, and those are two matchups I kind of like. So, and obviously you're starting Hill. Joe, it's not good, man. It definitely impacts it pretty hard. Yeah, I think Olave is decent, but against the Packers too. I mean, we'll see. Hopefully, it's the right decision. I got to get some points to catch up. So, if I'm shooting for the ceiling, then I'm shooting for the ceiling. Nah, definitely can't count on Joe Mixon. He's pretty bottom tier right now in terms of just like average. Isn't what Reddit said. Yeah, I think Reynolds is probably the right play. I don't know. It's tough, man. I don't like Hopkins that much, to be honest. I want to go crazy with Dell right now, but I just feel like it might be a little too premature. He had one good game. So it could be just a safer, good idea to start Reynolds, kind of see what the other two do this week, and then readjust from there. If Dell has another great day, maybe he starts earning a spot on our rosters, starting rosters. But it might be a little too premature to do that yet. Because I got similar questions, dude. Like I'm in like a 18 like a decap league, so there's 16 people left, and there's another league that's also just 16 people in general, and so I'm kind of starting like Adam Thielen in those leagues. I have Dobbs, and I think I got Tank Dell on one of them, so I'm like, do I start Dell or Thielen? I think I'm benching Dobbs this week and just running with Thielen, but they're all like literally right next to each other in the same tier. Number 2 receiver, it's definitely Cooks, but I don't think it's that valuable of a role currently. The tough decisions. Those are the decisions where you can't get right. You just gotta just pray. What are these questions? Joe is a friend that does not watch any football at all, and he's just pulling questions from Reddit to be a troll. That's what that is. I'm 100% starting Amari Cooper. It's the best matchup you can possibly get right now between Titans and Chargers. They both of them you want to play our receivers against. Definitely leaning B. Robert Higgins. Zach Moss, I don't mind, but I think you just have better options to where I probably wouldn't be starting Moss. I just don't know how Burrow's injury is gonna It's kind of just a game time call. I just feel like this week he might just go Brian Robinson, play it safe, and hope he does some good things against the Bills. Not the best matchup, but Brian Robinson's been showing how he's been getting the volume. He's been doing good. So I'm going B. Rob and Amari, personally. Herbert or Cousins? You literally can't go wrong. Both of them are going to pop off this week. I might consider Cousins because the Chargers defense is just not great. So I'd probably do Cousins. Kmet or Higbee? Bro, I don't like either of those players. I might lean Kmet, but I don't feel good about it. I'm playing Puka for sure. I don't think he's out. I think that it's the same thing that happened last week where he was questionable. They were kind of taking it easy on him, and then he played. So it's the same injury. Definitely expected to play. Last week I was kind of thinking the same thing, like, oh, he's injured going against SF. Do I sit him? So I sat him, and then he got 22 points. So I think you for sure fire him up. It's too much upside to not. I'm going Kincaid over Njoku. Njoku just hasn't done a whole lot. I'm not a huge fan right now. And Kincaid, they've gotten a few passes to him over the last couple of days. They've tried to kind of work him in. Don't love Kincaid, but definitely like him better than Njoku. I'm probably leaning with Fields this week. I just it's kind of hard not to go with him just because of the massive upside he has. I think he starts running a lot more this week, and that should help him get some more points, but we'll see. It's kind of a gamble. I think I would start Metcalf. It's a little too early to just kind of start Dell. I do like him. I do think he's going to be good, but as of now, I would probably go that direction. I mean, Metcalf's pretty questionable, so it kind of depends on if you have other players to play if Metcalf's out. Because if you go Metcalf and he doesn't play before the game, obviously Tank Dell already played. So if you don't really have anybody else and you want to play it safe and just go with Tank Dell, then I don't hate that. I just kind of like to wait and see if he has another good week. But I mean, I don't hate going Dell based off of Metcalf's questionable injury. I'm running with Kirk this week. I think Kirk is probably going to finish as the number 1 quarterback. They're 0-2. They definitely need to win, and they're going to be slinging the ball. Chargers defense has been the worst in the league. They've had like over 700 yards allowed to quarterbacks. So I definitely would go Kirk. Yeah, I feel you, Matthew, bro, but I think that Puka's pretty much like 99% guaranteed to play. If it was more questionable, I totally get that, and maybe we reevaluate. But in this sense, he played with that same injury last week, so I don't think it's that serious. And they even said he's likely to play. The Dotson 2-2-1 is tough, man. Dotson really hasn't done a lot this year, but I do think better things are coming for him. I just don't know how that works against Buffalo because Buffalo's pretty tough. I think at this point, I would probably continue with the hot hand, which is Tutu Atwell. And then once Kupp comes back, obviously, then Tutu's probably going to take a back seat. And hopefully by then we see the Dotson's been showing out. So I think 2-2 this week for sure. Yeah, I mean, Lamar's never really a bad option. I don't know. He hasn't been performing the best. He did good last week, but it's still like I expect even better from Lamar. So I don't know. It's tough. I think this week with Kirk though, he's definitely dropping 20 points or more. So I think it's a pretty safe bet. I pretty much took Kirk in like all my I don't know, I guess DFS leagues or whatever. I was building these teams with Kirk. Didn't even think about any other quarterback because I think he could be number 1 on the week. Yeah, if you got no one else, man, I mean, just go Tank Dell, call it good. He could definitely still do pretty decent, especially against the Jaguars. They're going to have to pass. I don't hate it. Even if Metcalf does play with an injury, he could just kind of flop. So we'll see. Can't we expect another Bill? What the hell, man? They're like not even in the top half of the league. They're like the worst team in the division besides the Jets. But even then, Jets are like, it's just because they don't have a quarterback. Stop the slander. Hey man, I don't have anything against the Patriots. I don't see it happening with Mac Jones. Sky Moore, Jaden Reed, full PPR. I probably wouldn't entertain Berrios. I guess with the injury to Wall, maybe. But I don't know. Berrios is interesting. It's kind of weird. Jayden Reed. I mean, I would probably lean Jayden Reed's direction with Watson out. He did really good last week. I'm just kind of hoping for the same thing. I just think that Jayden Reed gets more targets than Sky Moore does. So it's really hard to start Sky Moore when he's only getting 3 targets a game. So I'm definitely more of a Reed fan at this point. And it's kind of too much of a gamble for me to start Berrios, I think. I think I would prefer just to go with Reed. I'm gonna go Chris Godwin over DJ Moore. I'm not a huge DJ Moore fan. I don't know. He's just not doing a whole lot. Chris Godwin, I'm not the biggest fan of, but I like him better than Moore. Against Philly, our pass defense hasn't been that great right now, so I don't think Godwin would be a bad start. Well, Kareem Hunt's probably not going to play this week because they just got him, but we'll see. I mean, he does know the offense, so it's possible. Mixon, I'm just not a huge fan of right now. I think that he's getting 10 points a game and probably will continue. Brian Robinson has a lot more upside, so I'm going to go with Brian Robinson and Jacobs. Jacobs is by far and away the best one there, so Jacobs is 100% a lock. And then if you did want to go Joe Mixon over Brian Robinson, I don't fault you on that this week, but I'm probably just going with the hot hand, and right now the hot hand is Brian Robinson. And then I'm probably going with the Seahawks defense, honestly. I like the Saints defense, but I think that the Packers offense is actually not bad, whereas the Seahawks are going against Andy Dalton. So, sign me up for that one. DJ Moore versus Hollywood. I mean, this week I'd probably go with DJ Moore just because I don't like the matchup with Dallas. I'm pretty much not starting Hollywood if I can avoid it. Even though against Dallas he still could be okay, but I get that. At that point I'd go DJ Moore. And why is it Kirk Cousins? What the fuck? I'm trying to think of a player actually though. Nah, bro, it can't be. I said the same thing about Mike Evans until this year because his value was just too easy not to get. He was going so late it made sense, and he's already paid off for me, so I'm pretty happy with that. But I feel you, it was Mike Evans for a little bit. I didn't draft Mike Evans for the last few years until this year. Yeah, no, dude, I'm telling you, Brady's arm, it was just fucking falling apart. People were like, oh, he's downgrading at quarterback with Baker. And I'm like, dude, you don't realize Baker Mayfield's a top 6 passing, deep passer. And that's what Mike Evans is. So I was like, I don't want anything to do with Godwin. I just wanted Mike Evans. To me, Mike Evans is the big receiver in that in that offense. I don't think Godwin does nearly as much. I don't think Godwin's bad, but he's just a guy that's kind of getting 50 to 60 yards each week. And if he doesn't get that touchdown, he's only going to have a pretty average week. Whereas Mike Evans, he's just going to keep balling, I think. I'm pretty stoked with Evans. I think Brady does take the risks, though. I just think that he couldn't throw as deep as he used to, man. I don't know. Some of those deep passes last year were fucking terrible. Like, it was kind of like his last year was kind of like Peyton Manning's last year, where he just really couldn't do a whole lot. Honestly, I'd probably say like Joe Mixon might be mine. I just, every time I get Joe Mixon, I'm just very disappointed. Just pretty shitty player overall. DJ Moore's another one I'm not drafting ever again. Made a point not to draft him this year. I'm definitely done with him pretty much. Najee Harris, didn't want him this year. Didn't draft him. Didn't believe in him. And so far, I'm right on that one. Dameon Pierce, I never have drafted, and quite honestly, never will. Mike Williams, I think, is one for me too. I just don't like Mike Williams. I don't like his up and down weeks. That's a tough question, man. They're all so similar. I do like Javonte's matchup this week quite a bit. Let me see. I think for me, it's probably either going to be Javonte or Madison. I think I lean Madison, though, barely. I don't like the fact that Gus Edwards doesn't get as much opportunity as he probably could. The running back in the Ravens system always seems to be very hit or miss, and it depends on touchdowns. And in general, I feel like touchdowns obviously are going to make or break a week, but I think that volume-wise alone, I would probably go with the other two guys. Javonte, I think he's going to do decent against the Dolphins, but at the same time, they could just pass a lot, and maybe he doesn't get as much work as I would think. Whereas Madison, he's been involved in the passing game, the running game. He's been pretty heavily involved. He hasn't looked great as a player, but I think at least with the volume and going against the Chargers, I would probably just lean Madison at this point. I think at this point I might be starting Tyler Lockett. For me, I'm starting Wilson above Terry McLaurin. So like at this point, I think Terry McLaurin's kind of out of the question. But I do think Lockett this week without Metcalf. Metcalf's pretty questionable, and he might not play. So if he doesn't play, that pretty much boosts Lockett. And even if he does, if he's playing hurt, they might still look to target Lockett a lot more. And Lockett's coming off of a good week last week too. I would just double down on Lockett, have another good week again, and go with that. Yeah, that's not bad, bro. I mean, definitely pretty strong at running back and quarterback. I think Laporta, Musgrave are two of the better rookie tight ends. I mean, the biggest thing is just really receiver for you. I don't like Hopkins. Dotson I do like, but he really hasn't done much this year yet, so we'll see if he can turn it around. And, I mean, obviously Dell has some upside. Reynolds is good for now, but obviously when Jameson Williams comes back, probably won't be as great. Yeah, I don't blame you, dude. Laporta has been better than Kincaid, fantasy-wise so far. They're just targeting him more. Oh no, obvious. It's pretty obvious. Yeah, obviously you're picking up Dell and Reynolds as time goes on. Yeah, I mean the only other thing you could do is maybe try to trade DeAndre Hopkins and package them with the running back if you wanted to do that. It's kind of tough. But let's say you did Hopkins and Kyren Williams because his volume or his ceiling, I guess his value right now I think is pretty high. So maybe you do Hopkins, Kyren for Maybe you can get CD. I don't think you can get a CD Lamb, but you could throw it out there. Try to get one of those elite receivers. Maybe. Sanders, Dylan, London. I'm for sure starting Miles Sanders. I think he has a pretty good day today. Hasn't done much so far, but against the Seahawks, their running defense has been pretty shit this far. And then after that, I think I just go London. I'm not a huge Dylan fan, especially against the Saints. London's going to be very hit or miss this year, but I would rather just take the chance on that than Dylan. Kyron for Higgins might not be bad, though. I'm not sure who wins that, to be honest. They say that this calculator I just put this into has Higgins like 6 points higher. So I don't know. Yeah, this other one has Higgins a little higher. I mean, Higgins I think has a little bit more value than Kyron Williams. It's really just the fact that running backs are a little harder to find typically. I would see if maybe you could do like Kyron and Dotson for like Devontae Smith. Yeah, it's a lot easier to play waivers for receiver, and so I feel you. I think this week I'm either going with Pickens or Reynolds. I think I just lean Pickens against the Raiders. I think that's a pretty good matchup I like, but it's tough. I think Pickens, London, and Reynolds are all pretty similar. Brees Hall, I'm just not starting this week if I can avoid it. I think Brandon Cooks is out this week if I'm not mistaken, so I think it's just Reynolds. Definitely not playing Najee at this point if I can avoid it. So I think I lean Mike Thomas just a little bit over Tutu. Well, that's just not really reasonable. First off, nobody trades Jay Jetta. You'd have to have quite the offer, and kind of same thing with Bijan at this point, I think. If you wanted Lamar, you could do Lamar, like Lamar, Kyron for Devontae Smith maybe, but I think I lean Jaden Reed. I'm trying to go for the guy that has the most like upside right now, and I think it's him. But also like I think he'll get the most targets. I think Robert Woods is also an okay play. I think I stay away from Tony Jones just because I don't know who's going to be playing there more. If it's going to be Tony or Miller, I don't know if Tony Jones has much impact, and Pirine I'm not a huge fan of at this point either. So it's pretty much Woods or Reed, and with Watson being out again, I'm probably just going to go with Reed. As the season goes on, farther and farther, I just feel like they're going to slowly phase Woods out of that offense as well, with Tank Dell and Nico Collins being the main two. So I'm pretty much avoiding Njoku at all costs. I think Ferguson could have a good day, but I'm going to go ahead and lean with Hunter Henry. I'm going to ride the hot hand. Ferguson hasn't really gotten a lot of targets, so it's pretty much touchdown or bust. And that's kind of how Njoku is too. So both of those guys are really touchdown or bust, whereas Hunter Henry has been getting some targets. So even if he doesn't get touchdowns, like he'll still probably get maybe 50 yards on like 5 catches, hopefully. Dude, it's kind of funny how people are like that sometimes. I had a friend that did that too. I was like, bro, I don't know. I think your team's not the best, but hey, to each their own. I think the biggest thing is just trying to find trades where it benefits both parties, because it's pretty easy to throw a lopsided, shitty trade out there. But I've traded a few guys this week, and I feel like both teams kind of benefited from the trade in no sense. I got the more elite player, I would say, so I was pretty happy with it. But some of these guys like are really low on running back right now, like they don't have any, and so if they're pretty like down on running back, and you have a lot, that's kind of where I'm able to package a running back and a receiver together and try to upgrade my receiving core with a better receiver. I kind of feel like it's hard for me to say, because if you're rostering Tajay Spears and Njoku at this point, I feel like you probably have pretty like deep rosters, or like it's a 16-man league. I don't like to drop people for defenses really too much. I project the Seahawks to have a better day, but at the same time, Saints are a really good defense, and like if you just ride with the Saints, I don't think it really matters too much. So I guess I don't typically like to drop players for Seattle, but if it's a dynasty or some sort of a deep league where you feel like you need Spears and Njoku, then obviously keep them. But that's just kind of a very league reliant question, I guess. It's hard for me to answer. Okay, that's not bad, bro. I mean, I feel like AJ Dillon is like zero value to that trade, to be honest. So I think they kind of, it's not the worst trade. I mean, they still get a solid receiver and they get Madison. So I don't know. It's all right, I guess. But definitely good for you. You came up. Definitely Judy. I don't like Hopkins that much. I think Judy has a better week this week. Judy has a lot of upside, and I think he's got the Dolphins this week. So they're definitely going to have to throw some points up there. Point out here in Baltimore, so I expect Gus Edwards. So maybe I didn't take that into consideration, honestly. So that's probably something that would have been nice to know. I don't know. It's hard for me to take weather into some of these decisions, I guess. But I appreciate the compliment, and I'm 100% starting Nico Collins. It's really just a question of DJ Moore and Zay. I like Zay as a player, but I just don't know if he gets enough targets and work at this point to be 100% involved, I guess. DJ Moore, I also just don't like DJ Moore, but he did come back and do pretty well last week. I think I might just go with DJ Moore again, because again, they're gonna have to put up some points against Kansas City, so somebody's gonna have to do it, and if they don't, they just lose. So I'm probably going Nico, DJ Moore. I just don't like starting Ravens running backs because Lamar takes the ball and runs so much that it's hard to be comfortable, I guess, starting one of them. Like, I just feel like every week Gus Edwards comes away with like 10 rushing attempts, 13, somewhere in that range. Whereas it would be great if you had a guy that was getting at least like 15. And I don't think he really gets much passing work to make up for that. So those kind of running backs with Baltimore, it's kind of like if they don't get the touchdowns, you're really not going to have that great of a week. But definitely been tough because I think there's times where the weather does play a factor, but then there's other times where it doesn't play that much of a factor. So it's tough to say. But guys, we got 3 minutes left. So any last minute questions to get in there, ask him now. And I know I said Matt was going to be back next week, or this week, but now it's next week. So thanks for being a part of the chat today, bro. I appreciate you being here. I traded away Joe Mixon and Terry McLaurin for Saquon and Dotson. And then another trade I did this week, somebody wanted Zach Moss and they gave me James Conner. I don't know why, but I'll take that all day. Dak or Tua? I'm definitely going Tua. Tua's been a beast so far this year. I'm just going to continue to ride the hot hand. Dak is 250-50 at this point, I think. Definitely could do pretty decent against the Cardinals, but he might not have to, so. Bro, you're good. You don't have to be here every week. Not everybody has to be here every week. But it's definitely nice when people check back in every couple weeks or you see the same names every now and again. So. But I think that was going to do it. Basically 10 o'clock right now. Games are going to be starting. I'll catch you guys later. Like, subscribe if you haven't already. And then same time next week, 9 to 10 Pacific.